Help! Justice!
Ready?
It could save this city.
Should we call, is backup the term you use?
Yeah.
Captain Vimes, there is a dragon at large. I want you to marshal all the resources at your disposal.
That is a fingerprint.
Fingerprint? What's a fingerprint?
People believe that we, together, can make things better.
So the watch. He looked like a really man. Let's shred this.
See, that's what I love most about our city. No matter how bad it is, people just never say no.
If you want change, you need power.
This is way above our pay grade.
Enjoy all that? It was a little expository in the middle there, but it picked up, didn't it?
Oh, hello and welcome to the Periodic Table of Awesome. There we go.
I just like your reaction of,
hello or hello.
Push the button. Come on.
Oh.
sir. Good
Oh,
day.
hell no.
Cranking the thing, you know.
Dion
come on.
speaking in hollow capitals.
Yes. Hello. No, I could. I think, I can't do deaths. No deaths here. Hello, welcome to the Periodic Table of Awesome. My name is Dion.
Hi, I'm Quinny.
Hello,
I'm
Quinny.
Beck.
It's Beck.
I'm Peta.
Jill.
I forgot what it was. You really got there.
Yeah. Well,
I probably broke it straight away, so who knows? Who cares? How you doing?
No, I'm good. How's everyone else on this wonderful day of
First day back at
what
work
day is it?
yesterday. No more holiday.
Oh, woe is you.
And this
Oh, sorry. I know you've been slogging your guts out.
and this
I didn't get any break over Christmas or New Year, so I'm just a bit salty. That's
Soon,
all.
though. Soon.
Yeah, soon.
On this very special 199 and a half episode of the Periodic Table.
Yeah,
of
we
Awesome.
couldn't spoil episode 200.
Because that was something that was briefly raised. Like, oh, this will be the 200th, and it's like, it will it?
Yes. Are we sure?
Would it be though?
I'm gonna call it like X-Men
Yeah.
1.5. Remember when they released the X-Men film, but they did like X-Men 1.5 before X2 came out, and I'm like, sure, we'll do that. 199 and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when your mum's telling you off and she's like, I'll count to 10. 9 and a half.
We have
9
done
and 3/4.
We have done way more than 200 shows of conversation, but like it's just the numbering system. Whatever, doesn't matter. Hello.
It's fine.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
Yes. And we are here because we wanted to talk about this. Or more importantly, I wanted to talk about this. Because I am fascinated by it, but at the same time, Dion has this thing where he wants to, subject us to things that may potentially be unpleasant.
The bus for this one.
Well, when musically, Dion is the person who says, "Hey, I'm going to subject you to terrible fucking music." I'm the guy that says, "I'm going to subject you to interesting TV."
Oh, okay.
Oh, fuck
This
off.
is it's like watching a car crash.
But you all said.
But the things in the car crash are things that you love dearly.
Yeah.
You
So
all
you
said
can't
that.
look away, but also it's
Okay.
incredibly painful.
You said Terry Pratchett was good, and I'm contesting you after.
Well, this isn't Terry Pratchett, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, that's very
Getting off
definitely.
on a technicality.
What have we been watching?
We have
Yes.
been watching The Watch because we watch The Watchmen.
So you don't have to watch the
yeah.
watch, man.
Oh,
Men,
dear.
people, whatever.
Indiscriminate genders.
Yes,
Yeah.
trolls, dwarves, werewolves, whatever you are.
Okay.
We watch this so you don't have to.
So we should probably say from the get-go that we're not going to bother with a spoiler alert.
No.
But for those who may not have read any of the Watch or Discworld novels and don't want to be spoiled, there are some concepts in here that are a bit spoilery for those novels, even though the series is not anything like the novels. There are still characters that have surprise elements to them that would be a surprise if you were to read the novels. So if that's important to you.
The series is attempting to kind of pay lip service to some of the concepts of the novels, and occasionally there are ideas that you go, oh, that was in that book, sort of, kind of, in a different way, maybe not really.
Right. And I just want to let you know,
and this is an important thing to recognize, is that in this particular group, hands up who has read any or watched any other Discworld.
What do you classify as Discworld?
Any of the 27 books that Terry Pratchett wrote about Discworld, or the TV shows that were based on it, the audio books that were based on it, any of the video games that were made.
Should we go? I'll read them out. The Color of Magic, The Light Fantastic,
I read that
Equal
one.
Rights, Mort, Sorcery, Weird Sisters, Pyramids, Guards, Eric, Moving Pictures, Reaper Man, Witches Abroad, Small Gods, Lords and Ladies, Men at Arms, Soul Music, Interesting Times, Masquerade, Feet of Clay, Hogfather, Jingo, The Last Continent, which is about Australia, Carpe Jugulum, The Fifth Elephant, The Truth, The Thief of Time, Night Watch, Monstrous Regiment, Going Postal, Thud, Making Money, Unseen Academicals, Snuff, and Raising Steam.
So yes,
and
any of
There's
those.
also some children's books.
And I saw
but I'm not gonna.
the Sean Astin Color of Magic miniseries, and I've seen the Hogfather.
Those are Discworld.
So as an expert, I think I should go straight into. It's joking. I've already put on the spoiler warning logo, so go right ahead. Do whatever you need to do.
I have watched the animated Soul Music and Weird Sisters.
Hey, okay, they were a passable attempt at trying to adapt very long books into children's animated series.
Peter, I noticed that you have not raised your hand at any point during this.
I have not consumed any of these things. I have been meaning to. It just seems like a really big commitment. Kind of like going back to Doctor Who from the very beginning.
Yeah, it does feel like that, and I actually recommend not going back to the very beginning in this case.
I do remember that you have told me what book not to read first, and I couldn't remember what it was. And
The
therefore I
first
didn't
book.
Fantastic, or the Color
of Magic.
Yeah.
It's the first book, and I recommend no one start with that. The book that I was holding, there's some questions in the chat. The book I'm holding is Guards, which is where I started. I have a very good friend who started me on the Discworld path, and she very wisely recommended that I start at Guards, and I strongly recommend that anyone who is going, maybe I shouldn't spoil myself with this shitty TV series that has nothing to do with these books except to spoil you for concepts that come up in the very valuable books. Go and start with Guards. It's great.
And Guards is very much based, or this series is very much based on the Guards novels, so which contain Guards, Men at Arms, Feet of Clay, The Night Watch, and I think there's a couple of other. I'm trying to remember if there are other Guards specific ones. Sorry, my apologies.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the Watch, aren't we?
Well, that's the thing.
Are we?
They're called the Guards books. You know, they or the
Night Watch books is what they're called, or the Watch books.
Yeah.
But so Discworld is a very complicated series of novels in that there are many different sort of storylines you can follow through them, and they all kind of link back together to one another. So they're different stories told within the same universe. And some of them are kind of told at the same time. But the stories that this TV series is trying to kind of take from and use characters from are the stories about the Watch in Ankh Morpork.
Yes. Thank you, Peta. The Fifth Elephant is also a Watch book, as is Thud. So yeah, I mean, so Peter, you've never experienced anything Discworldy. Do you know what the Discworld even is?
It's a world on a disc.
Correct.
That was a guess.
Yep.
No, it is. It is on the back of an elephant.
4 elephants.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
On a
riding on the back of
turtle.
a giant turtle that's, tooling around through the universe.
Yeah, I thought it was a turtle, but the elephant is new information to me.
So there's
Oh,
4
there are-
elephants on a turtle.
Yeah.
Right.
Holding the
Of
disc
course.
on their backs, and the disc spins, and then there's a little sun that goes around that. And the way the disc spins is either you go discward or hubward. So the directions are all, you're either going with the spin of the disc or you're going widdershins when you travel around the disc. The whole kind of world is
Peter,
you can also go rimwards.
Just imagine the flat
You're
earthers
just
were right.
confusing people, Quinny.
I know.
That's not important.
But it's
Is
fun.
that where flat earthers
It's
come
a flat
from?
earth.
Yes.
thing. Yes. Someone in chat has asked, why not start reading Discworld from the Color of Magic? The answer that I would give to that is it's incredibly boring. It does not actually represent what Terry Pratchett's writing and concept of the world turned into. And Pratchett himself said that it was not his best work by any means.
That's harsh.
So-
I liked the
It's
Colour of Magic.
extraordinarily derivative. It's basically him going, I'm going to do a comedy fantasy book, and I'm going to use a whole bunch of comedy fantasy tropes. And then as he went on, he started to realize, actually, I've built a really interesting world.
What about my bro Rincewind? Next thing you'd be telling me he's a shit wizard.
I have to admit that in my reading of Discworld, I have skipped every Rincewind book because I do not like Rincewind.
So Rincewind is a shit wizard.
Oh.
He
Hello,
is the
shit
wizard
wizard.
who has made a career out of being the person who can run away the fastest, and has spent most of his time outrunning eldritch demons and stuff like that from the nether dimensions faster than anyone else.
Yeah.
But that's essentially
But
his
one
thing.
of the great things about Discworld having so many different storylines involved in it is that if you do find a character or a storyline that you're not connecting with, like me and Rincewind, we just don't get along, you can just skip them. And it doesn't actually take away from your enjoyment of Discworld as a whole. So kind of like, did anyone else read Game of Thrones and just find a character where they felt like they just wanted to skip chapters because each chapter's like told from the
No,
perspective
I'm
of
pretty
a
sure
different
Game of
character?
Thrones is a TV series.
Yeah, I don't think there are actually books of that.
It's a book.
In Game of Thrones, each chapter is told from this perspective of a different character, and I found myself just skipping Bran chapters because I did not like.
I'm pretty sure so did the
storyline.
writer,
You can.
or at least the
Pretty
guys
much.
watching the TV show.
If you didn't get enough
Pretty
brand in your
much.
diet, this is what happens.
But this time, you can read just the storylines of the the people that you like in the Discworld, and you don't actually miss much, if anything at all, and it's still a very coherent sort of story to understand.
But the great thing is that whether you like each character or not, quite often they will show up in other books, or and there are certain kind of characters that play out through many books. So characters like Death, characters like Havelock Vetinari, who sort of is a big player in world politics no matter what. Mudstrom Ridcully, who's the Arch Chancellor of the university, shows up in anything that happens to be about Ankh Morpork. Anything that involves magic, he usually shows up. So, and the librarian who even attempts to vaguely show up in this show.
Oh, come on. This is where I'm absolutely fascinated. Like, I'm
This
literally
show-
boarded by two people who know a lot about this.
Yes.
And then perhaps
I
some
was
other people
really
who don't.
excited about this show though, Dion, because was meant to follow my personal favorite storylines, which are those of The Watch. The characters in The Watch are my favorite in all of Discworld, and the stories that they tell are, they mean a lot to me. So when this trash came out, it broke my heart.
So these characters in the show are the actual ones from the book that you like.
They claim to be. They have the same names.
They have the same names. That's what I
They have the same names and some of the same stories and backgrounds and that sort of thing.
Okay. So to give a brief synopsis of what The Watch is. The comedic yet thrilling series pits trolls, werewolves, wizards, and other improbable heroes against an evil plot to resurrect a great dragon, which could lead to the destruction of life, as they know it.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Did
not what
anyone
I-
else get that? Because that's not what I was really getting.
No.
I got that there were some people in this show, and it's very punk.
Oh, fuck
I
that
liked
annoys me.
that they played Walk Like an Egyptian to, encourage the audience to realize that they're supposed to be in Egypt.
They're not though.
Walk like Tepic.
This
Ankh
version of
Morpork
Egypt
is not Egypt. There's
Ankh
no.
Morpork is meant to be London. It's
There
meant to
is
be.
actually one moment, please. There is actually a book called Pyramids about the place that is based on Egypt, which is definitely not Ankh Morpork in the world. So
Yeah.
no, it's not Egypt.
I think there's a lot there for people to unpack, but I want to know. So, Peter, please tell me, what do you think about this? Not having been corrupted by anything.
Yes.
I was a little bit corrupted because I already knew that the fandom was unhappy based on what they had seen, and I completely understand. I will always say this, it's really hard to do an adaptation, particularly an adaptation of a well-loved work, because everybody has their idea of how it should be and their headcanon and all of that. But I already kind of had the idea, and there are particular things about particular characters that I completely understand some outrage about. So I was already a little bit sour on it going in, I have to admit. Like, I tried to go in with a completely open mind, but I don't know that I'd succeeded. And to be honest, I had a lot of trouble mustering any fucks for any of these characters. And it made it
Non-mustering
a
of the
tough
fucks.
watch.
Oh.
Which is so frustrating for people who love the characters, because when Carrot shows up, you're like, yeah, Carrot, he's a great character who's a lot of fun in the books.
Carrot is actually like my longtime D&D character is very Carrot, and so I feel like incredibly attached to that character as a whole through like this weird secondhand, sense of belonging. And they fucked it. That's all I can say about that.
He's hot though.
Yes. Suppose. Yeah, and I mean the danger is that we're going to spend our entire time going in the books. He's this, or in the like, and we may need the gonk droid back again.
Yeah, but not for me. What's an equivalent of a gonk droid in Pratchett's?
Ook.
Say ook. Ook.
Because that's when the librarian is going to come in and slap you.
Ook.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would be really interesting to get Peter's perspective on this as the newbie to all of Discworld.
I think also Jill and I are pretty
not
newbie.
Not whether or not you'd been, you'd gone in with an unopened mind, a slightly ajar mind. But really, like, were there any things that stood out to you as particularly good or particularly bad before we get into the, in the book, this is what happened, or in the shows?
I found cyberpunk Captain Jack Sparrow fairly irritating.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I
like the
don't
actor.
know if this is a new thing for my head, but I don't find the hilarious alcoholic trope very hilarious, and I wasn't enjoying the performance. I didn't mind Lady Sybil's performance, but one of the things that I do know that character was supposed to be and isn't has enraged me so much that it's hard to enjoy what that performance is as opposed to what it's trying to be and what it was supposed to be. Things to enjoy. God, there was a funny moment in episode 3. Right? There was a funny moment in episode 3 where the assassins are all supposed to have super scary names, and one of them's called Karen from financing.
Oh, yes, the drag queen from Australia, mind you, is an assassin in Discworld.
I did not realise that.
Okay.
Oh, there's some trans representation. That is nice. If we're going to erase fat bodies, we may as well have some other kinds of representation. Although, again, I'm not sure who that character is supposed to be.
Which one, sorry?
Boy George.
Cheery.
Cheery. Yeah.
I love them.
Okay.
No, let Peter go.
Yeah.
Let Peter go.
Look, to be honest, I was kind of hoping by the third episode, because you know, setup's hard. You know, first 2 episodes we're setting up what the story is and who the characters are, and I was kind of hoping by the third episode it would kick off.
Well, we have to some structure around this all. We have watched all 3 the episodes that have currently been released on Amazon so far, and this is a BBC America. Oh, Stan.
Yep.
BBC
It hasn't
America.
actually been released in the US or the UK yet. Australia has gotten this one first.
Yeah, wow, guys, don't. Sorry, it's just like, wow.
It's an interesting one because it's a BBC America production.
Yeah.
Which is mostly using either UK or international cast. I have no idea where it's shot. And I can kind of understand why it was probably BBC America, because the BBC in the UK probably went, oh, fuck no.
Yeah, I just didn't understand where it really came from. Like, I mean, this quite famously, all of the productions that have come out from Terry Pratchett's work have kind of been somewhat distanced by them. Although Terry Pratchett's always kind of gone, hasn't quite worked out like I was supposed to, and they're not linked at all, which is kind of weird. And this one, as it came out, we actually had high hopes. I know that there was a lot of excitement about this. They're doing a watch thing, that'll be fun, and then it came out and everyone's like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, because The Watch is such a great series of storylines and so many incredible characters who could do really well on the screen.
And structurally, it could work very well as a comedy police procedural set in Ankh Morpork, using characters that fit into police tropes, but do it in a funny and clever and potentially very enjoyable way. But this doesn't do that.
Yeah. So Peter, were there any plot lines that have grabbed you, things that interested you, things you'd like to see more of, maybe if not from this particular series, but you know, things that interested you?
Are there any plot lines?
Was there a plot in this?
Yeah, what I've character-wise, maybe I can always kind of find, you know, little nuggets of things that are interesting in the way characters are set up. I would be interested potentially, if it was maybe a slightly different vibe, seeing the relationship between some of these characters develop and learning how to work together and understand each other's differences. I do love super character-driven stuff, and it seems to me like there's sort of an opportunity here for those kinds of stories. I don't really care about the dragon or that guy that didn't die.
Yep.
Very much, and it seems to be the main plot, so I might struggle. I might struggle moving forward from here. I can see nuggets of potential in some of the concepts and some of the characters. I love the idea of world building a completely different world that has its a completely different set of rules, and world building and character building within those worlds. And because of all of that, it's the kind of thing that I should like. You know, it's the kind of thing that I would get really excited about, like fantasy world building, cool. Like,
oh my God, read the books.
No, Beck, I'm sorry. I honestly have been meaning to. I know I'll love them.
It's all there. All the books you want.
Yes.
But I can't pick out a particular plot that I'm interested in seeing more of. No, I can't. Sorry, I can't give you one.
I desperately want you to not even necessarily read the books, but I've just gone back because I thought, okay, time to ground myself with what these are about. So I started listening to the unabridged audio books that are read by Nigel Planer, who was Neil in The Young Ones, and they're just fucking joyous. You know, is reveling in the original text, the humor that was originally intended, with an actor who has an extraordinary capacity for different accents and stuff. And it doesn't hurt that half of the characters sound a little bit like Neil.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you are wanting to kind of experience them, I would strongly advise that the audiobooks are a really, really enjoyable way to actually kind of get in on this. And, you know, takes maybe 9 hours or something like that to get through one of the books. But
I was
it's a
wondering
really
what to do
good
with my
9 hour.
3 Audible credits, so there we go.
The Watch and Men at Arms and
I recommend starting with Guards.
oh, sorry,
Right.
Guards.
Start with
sorry,
Guards.
not The Watch. Yeah, very
And
definitely.
that's an excellent way to start in
But
all of
do-
Discworld.
Do make sure that you seek out the ones with Nigel Planer, because there are also ones that are read by Terry Robinson, which are good, but they are the abridged versions. So yeah, make sure you go for the unabridged. They are, you know, let Terry's work do Terry's work.
But honestly, my heart does ache for you guys, because I have things, particularly books that I've been reading since I was a little kid, that, you know, very, very close to my heart. And to have an adaptation that isn't even trying to be a faithful adaptation must be frustrating.
I think one of the most frustrating things is knowing that the person most responsible for making it doesn't really give a fuck that they aren't being faithful.
Gives less than a fuck. In fact, it has felt like the person making this series, the team behind the creation of this series, has almost given the finger to Pratchett's estate. Partially by, in their thank yous in creating all of this, they have absolutely never mentioned the Pratchett estate. And they, like, while they have pointedly mentioned people who have been involved in every other area of it. And in the fact that they have told, on their Twitter bio, they say they are the creator of the Watch.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a big fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they did the whole, hey, we've wrapped production on the Watch, we want to thank this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, huge big long fucking list of people,
And not
Terry Pratchett. You're like, okay, shit.
Fucking hell.
To the point where Terry Pratchett's daughter had to kind of go, yeah, right, okay, cool. Thanks.
There's been a lot of, like, Pratchett's daughter and the Pratchett estate essentially have basically distanced themselves from this as much as possible.
And you know what? For a while, I was like, okay, let's just see what it is. Let's see, you know, where they're going with it. Maybe they're doing something exciting and different, and that could forgive the kind of bullshit. But when you see where they've taken it, you go, oh, wow. No, you really... The thing that I think probably bugs me the most is the fact that this is cyberpunk. The TV show is
Really?
Yes. Look at the amount of fucking wires and technology.
No. I'm not saying it's not cyberpunk.
Oh, right.
I'm saying that, look, I think we should talk to Dion and Jill, who are the next level of not familiar with this material, before we get too deeply into it. But I had the feeling that this could still have worked. That Ankh Morpork could still have been a grimy cyberpunk city.
I know what the clax is. I'm up to speed on some things.
It felt like it could have been Blade Runner, you know, almost Blade Runner-esque. It could have been, you know, I got feelings of in Serenity, you know, the planet where the Fruity Oaty bars thing happens. I was feeling that vibe here. And it could have worked, but they, like, everything else was completely wrong.
Yeah. So Dion, you're saying you know what the clax is, you know?
I know the clax. I know what that's the main form of communication that's going on with the big
not a payphone.
No, not a payphone. I have a little bit of an interest I like Discworld. I want to like more. I need to do more. Like Peter had said, need to do some reading instead of just waiting for television adaptations. It's probably a better thing for me to read a word every now and again. But I kind of go against the grain here, where I kind of like the series. And
you have to leave now.
This is what I was hoping. I was hoping that somebody would be able to find something in this series based on what it is.
I just want to say, but to both Beck and Quinny, I've got some justifiably shitty aggression for the show.
Okay, good.
Like, please stop that with death. That is not death. Get death off there. That's not right. Just put it away.
Wait, Quinny, we'll get there.
Yeah, you'll get there. But having not had the experience with Vimes, I really like Vimes. Having not had the experience with like the rest of the Watch or really understanding that, I kind of like some of them.
Who do you like?
I liked Carrot. I like the werewolf. I like the Constable Cherry. Like, I think they're all good. I didn't like the giant rock guy.
Who disappears
who
all of a sudden.
Just off he goes. And like the rest of it just kind of seems like it wasn't organized. I like the guild stuff. I like a veterinary, I liked, I hated everything to do with the Unseen University and all of those people, but I like the Assassin's Guild. Like, there's bits and pieces in here that I was like, this could be really fun. This could be a great, explanation of what all this is. But because they've literally put it into the Discworld and they've tried to replicate some of the jokes or the style of humor out of Discworld, I'm like, this is a terrible adaptation or influenced thing by. You're just not doing it right. And I can feel that
humor
already.
Feels really weird and forced and tacked on a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I just kind of like I kind of like the characters and the idea behind it is okay, and I'm willing to give it a bit more of a go. I think I'm not as anti the Watch as you are, because I don't have that other stuff with the other characters. I can see how this is easily going to be one of the most infuriating shows. Like, this is something that I could watch and then I'll go and read the books and I'll be like, those fuckers, that's a shit TV show. But for now, like, I'm actually quite enjoying figuring stuff out and mashing it all together.
There's different strokes for different folks. Apparently, you like it really aggressive with no lube. So go for your life.
Wow, just a dry rub.
Yeah.
Well, that is on my Grindr bio.
I'm deeply uncomfortable with where this went.
No, that's on my.
It's fine.
It's not on that. Sorry, no, that's on my Lincraft card. Jill, please tell me that you have some love for the show.
Look, the first episode, I really quite hated it because
it's kind of bad.
It was so disjointed and just a big old mess of like, I don't fucking like this cyberpunk Jack Sparrow, and there's like just throwing us in with all of these other random characters, and none of it kind of made sense to me in the first episode. So I'm like, I don't want to watch this show, but we have to watch 3 episodes for the podcast. So I went to episode 2. And I did stop halfway because I'm just like, I can't be fucking bothered with this show. So today, I finished episode 2, and then I did start to realize that I like Tiny Sexy Werewolf Girl. I like
Angua,
medical examiner Boy George, and and I like Hot Ranger.
Carrot.
He was quite annoying in the first episode, but then I started to see how their relationships all kind of like they worked together as like a team. I still don't like Vimes though. Like, he's so annoying.
Vimes, don't worry. I don't blame you.
He's
this is
super
not
annoying.
I mean,
but episode 3, it kind of started to feel like maybe the story was coming together and there could be the potential for it to be good, but it's still a bit of a hot mess.
one of the interesting things about episode 3 is where they actually switch books entirely and start doing a plot from a completely different book.
Right. Okay. Because I was enjoying how there's like these different guilds and stuff, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and seeing how they all work together. I like the girl with the dragon in the purse and her storyline on trying to find out what happened with her parents. I thought that was interesting, and that could possibly go somewhere.
Lady Sybil Rampkin, yes.
Yeah. But as for like the procedural stuff with like what the Watch are actually doing, like I kind of get that they're trying to redeem themselves from just overlooking all of the crime that's happening, and they're actually trying to like be cops now. But I'm sorry, Beck. But also at the same time, I don't care about what they're investigating.
There's no crime.
Did they miss a trick by, like, I mean, part of the thing is that because all crimes are technically legal, did they miss a trick by not focusing down?
Yeah, but they only became legal because nobody cared to police it anymore.
No,
but that's what's happening in the show.
Okay,
So
my
we've lost her. She's gone now.
My understanding of how they've set this up in the show, and Beck can tell me how this works in the books, but my understanding is it's not that nobody cared to police it, is that they realised that if they made it legal and put rules around it, then there was significantly less crime than if everything was illegal.
They would essentially police themselves.
Something through.
They do.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they police themselves.
I wasn't paying a lot of attention.
So essentially, that is part of the joy and the beauty of the world as it's told in the books, is that there is the Thieves Guild, there's the Assassins Guild, there's a number of
The
other
Fools
guilds.
Guild.
Yeah, and it's all kind of, so you're allowed to, the Thieves Guild work to a strict set of rules, and so they have a certain quota of thieving that they have to do. But if you thieve and you are not a registered thief, then the real thieves obviously will come after you, and they kind of police it themselves, because obviously that's really bad for them. It makes them look awful, and it.
I love that they leave receipts.
I wish they had made that clearer in the show, because it doesn't feel like
I picked it up. I picked it up in the first episode. And it's really clear in the third episode that the Assassin's Guild is policing themselves. An assassin has assassed someone, and it was a person from a different guild, and that assassin gets assassed himself.
Yes,
inhumed. I did like that. That in that third episode,
this
where
was the part of me that wasn't that invested, that ignored all of that stuff.
I know what, fair enough.
But I do have to agree with Quinny. I think you said in the chat earlier that you wished that the song that they performed was actually in Spandau Ballet Gold, and I was like, I was kind of amping up for that as well.
I would have been much more into it if they'd just, fucking gone for that. Like, if you're
I
gonna
was mad about it, and I still would have been mad about it, but I would have been significantly less mad about the situation that we were
if you're gonna have Boy George as your front man, you want to have like a pop nouveau kind of song.
It's got to be 80s new romantic somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I like that there's a musicians guild right next door to the Assassins Guild.
No!
Yeah.
You know who's next door to the Assassins Guild?
Who, Quinny? Who?
The Fools Guild.
Oh,
because
right.
they're idiots.
And what do they do?
They're the clowns and jesters and stuff like that.
The medieval form of a fool.
Yeah. And there is a whole... This is what I was saying, like that third episode strays into the middle of the plot from Men at Arms, which is all about the Assassin's Guild.
Does it feel? This is a question, actually, a serious question to people who've read the stuff. Does it feel like the writer or creator of this Watch TV series has gone on to Terry Pratchett's like Discworld, Wikipedia, whatever fan wiki, and gone through each book
kind of that soulless
and pulled out jokes, like funniest jokes from each book and ideas, and just kind of gone, oh, well, just throw this one in here, or this one will go in here, or this one will go here, and they don't actually understand how it should relate.
Yes, it's very soulless in the way that reading a Wikipedia page or like Cliff Notes, for those of us old enough to remember Cliff's Notes, would be.
I think what the thing that to me, going back and re-listening or whatever, that is the most apparent that they've missed the point entirely is the excising of two major characters.
Who they get rid of?
There are two characters who are in the books and continue throughout the entire book series, called Sergeant Colon and Corporal Nobby Nobbs. Now, Sergeant Colon is your absolutely typical been on the beat too long cop who is overweight and lazy and, is a perfect sergeant. He's the one that you get to pull everybody else in line, but he isn't necessarily very good at doing shit himself. And Nobby is the offsider to him, who is essentially would probably be a thief if he wasn't actually working for the cops.
So what's interesting about you saying he would be a thief if he wasn't working for the cops is that being a watch member is not a good thing to be in Discworld. No one wants to be part of the watch. It is something that you get made as part of your punishment. So if you are punished for something, you get turned into a member of the watch.
A bit like the Night Watch in Game of Thrones.
The only person who wants to be part of the watch in our first introduction to the watch in Discworld is Carrot, who is a human man who is very tall, who has been raised by dwarves, who are meant to be quite short, unlike Cheery, who is the same size as Carrot, and that therefore ruins literally every joke there is to make about that situation being a thing.
Do they mention in the series that he's supposed to be a dwarf?
Yes.
They do briefly.
Well, you really didn't pay attention in the first episode, did you?
No, I fucking hated it.
Very briefly. But Carrot has never been a watch member before, unlike in this TV series where he shows up and is like the best, constable in his brigade or whatever. He just read all of the law books about Ankh Morpork because he wanted to be really good at this job that he showed up to do, and he was really proud. Yeah, he is charmingly naive, is his whole thing. He's not meant to actually get anything. So he shows up having read the rules as written in books and doesn't understand how the world actually works. So he shows up and he starts arresting people in the Thieves Guild for thieving, not understanding that that is something they are actually allowed to do.
That's in the first episode.
I did notice they did do that in the series.
They did do that, yes.
But they did that in a way that he thought he was doing the right thing because that's what he'd done elsewhere, where he'd come from. Whereas the whole point is that he's never done this before. He's just read a lot of books and he's like, I totes know what's going on, guys. Don't worry.
To be fair, I am kind of getting that vibe from him in the series that, a lot of his learning is book learning and that he doesn't have a lot of real world. But I kind of figured that's because maybe there wasn't a lot of crime in the dwarf village that he was living in.
He's too smart. It doesn't work.
He has to do some dumb things, but that actually kind of makes it not work even more, because why would such a smart character do such dumb things?
I mean, we are getting into the weird sort of crossover anyway, because Angua and Detritus, the troll, don't show up until the second book anyway.
Can I ask you a question from the experts in the field? What was good about the Watch TV show? Did they get anything right? Oh, it's deathly silence. Don't all speak at once. Jump in if you've got something.
An alcoholic.
He's not an alcoholic in the first book. He's an alcoholic in the first page.
Well, for most of the first book, he is like mostly drunk. I listened to it last week.
As soon as Carrot shows up, he pulls himself into line. He pulls himself into line pretty quickly.
Go back another read.
I've read it just a month ago before the series came out.
Fight.
Vimes is not. The point of Vimes is not that he's constantly drunk, and he's certainly never belligerent. Like, that is not part of his character. His drunkenness is because of that fucking backstory in this show. I can't.
Yeah, it's because he had to push his friend off the roof of the university and he didn't die. That's why he's conflicted.
No. Can you imagine if you ran the watch and were suddenly told that the thieves were going to start policing themselves, though? What would be the point? What is the point of your entire role as head of the watch? Right?
Yeah.
What is there for you to do? What why are you leading these teams of miscreants?
Your cat
Sounds
destroying
like I'm
shit.
really angry, but
You
it's my
have.
cat
Just-
feeding off my anger and just destroying my house behind me. So Vimes starts drinking because like he feels there's no point in his existence, there's no point in his job, he's having difficulty finding that. And then when Carrot comes along and is actually so passionate about these things in such a charmingly stupid and naive way, he actually pulls himself together because he's like, no, this is why, this is the point. And there is actually some crime happening coincidentally in the first book that's actual crime, that's not Thieves Guild crime.
So that didn't actually happen.
Well, there
in
is
the
a
TV
dragon.
show.
There is a dragon.
So is there anything in the TV show else that might be correct?
Ang was a werewolf.
Angua.
Yes.
It's great. It's like you're struggling to be like, well, technically, I was a werewolf.
Sybil Ramkin is a lady.
She likes dragons.
Does she?
But yes.
Did she
Tell me
witness?
about Sybil Beck.
Dragons.
Oh,
Okay,
Sybil.
can I?
Can you please? I want to get into Sybil. Please tell me about Sybil.
So Sybil Ramkin is the thing that shits me the most in a series that has shit me up the wall. Okay, Sybil
couldn't tell.
Ramkin is my major bugbear with this TV series. Sybil in the Guards book, when we're first introduced to her, is a extremely tall giantess style, like massive woman. And she is hulking. She's like, but not in a like I'm buff way, in a like I am a very large lady kind of way. Think that half giant in the Harry Potter movies.
Okay, yeah.
Think that. And I think that there's the idea is put into the readers' heads of the ladies with the long braids and the conical metal bras riding into battle on giant horses,
Like a Valkyrie or
like
something.
like a big Valkyrie woman. But she wears fluffy pink nightgowns with rubber ducks on them. That sort of woman. Okay.
Yes.
She
And
is-
also mucks out the horse stalls, don't you know?
Yes,
Come
she
on.
mucks out.
Get with it, Jimmy.
She's from a very wealthy family and lives in a very wealthy part of Ankh Morpork, but she dresses in a very different way. She is not a fancy highfalutin lady in the way that she dresses because she's only interested in her dragons. Dragons in this world are little useless things that sit on your shoulders and poop a lot.
They're dogs. They're like they are high-bred, purebred dogs that she thoroughly enjoys looking after, and they are given names like Ramesses Niblick III and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because
so you can't use them as fire-breathing weapons.
She would never. No, she would never. She loves these things and thinks very highly of them and will not let anyone use them as weapons. They are not to be taken into battle. That's ridiculous. That's like taking your pedigree show dog into battle and thinking that's a good idea. Like, why would you do that?
Come on, Muffy.
So she knows a lot about dragons and she's a bit of a badass, but she's also this giant fat lady. Like, she's not a beautiful, stunning fighter woman with a terrible, tragic backstory.
She's not
who
like Ankh Morpork's Batman
become-
or Batwoman.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
she is the absolute epitome of the Queen's aristocracy, in the sense, if any of you have watched The Crown and you watched the royal family go out and go hunting, and they wear their shabby oldest clothes when they go stalking and everything, because she is the British aristocracy, breeding her little doggies and going to meetings and talking about things with her aristocratic friends, all that kind of stuff.
Although she doesn't like going to parties.
No.
But she's very much, to me, someone that I loved in the series, the book series, that is, because she was a bit of fat representation. And the idea that women can be a love interest, because she is in the book series, bit of a spoiler alert, regardless of how they look, how they choose to dress, they do not have to be this all-powerful warrior Catwoman who is stunningly gorgeous to be of interest to someone. And I've been reading these fantasy books for so long, it's the first time that I've seen something like that represented there. So she meant a lot to me. They do use Back to the Dragons as weapons thing. Vimes uses one of the dragons that she gives him as a weapon, and she is very anti it. She does not like that he does that. She's very disapproving of it. So basically her whole character in this was an offense to me.
Yeah.
I feel like the performance that she's kind of trying to be imposing and take up space, but doesn't work in the way that a character that actually unapologetically takes up space would. And because I had heard you talk about it and read, after I heard you talk about it, read a little bit about who this character was and how beautifully she was written and how much it meant to people, that made me very, very sad.
Yeah, I think I got more annoyed even that, and maybe this is just me reading into it, but she is one of the characters in the series that feels like they are played for diversity points because she is a Black woman in this series. But in order to put in a Black woman, they decided to take away the character's ability to be unapologetically a larger human.
Yeah.
And instead turned her into a gorgeous, like stunning Black woman.
Yeah.
I don't see, you can't say it's diverse just because you change the color of a character's skin and turn them into a Hollywood acceptable, gorgeous person.
I find body diversity is still few and far between in most things that I watch these days. So it's a shame to see that there was a character who was a fat woman, who you know, fat bodies being erased is not cool, guys.
I also feel like I found the fact that she wears a wig in this being played for laughs more problematic because she is a Black woman. And she does wear a wig in the book series, and it's because the dragons burn her hair off constantly, so she just wears a wig. And like, it is played for a bit of a laugh, but it is funny when you are like, there's no description as far as I can remember of what color her skin is in the book series.
No.
You could imagine whatever you wanted, but that's never been a focus. Whereas I think that drawing attention to the fact that she's Black in this series and she wears a wig and playing that for a laugh adds another layer of actually becoming problematic.
It borders on ick.
And the thing is, the books are very, very smart at how they approach things like race and bigotry and the way that they talk about class and all of those kind of things. The second book, Men at Arms, is the second Watch book is super about racism. And it's the moment where they introduce dwarves and trolls into the Watch. And it's all about the little and women and undead and all of these other elements. And it's all about the bigotries that every character still carries with them. So, you've got the dwarves who hate the trolls because of a thing that happened 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, whatever it is. The dwarves who are essentially played as, reading between the lines, as Chinese immigrants, the trolls who are the Russian immigrants or something along those lines, the undead who are essentially hated by everyone, and even characters who you think have no bigotry whatsoever still hold a grudge against the undead. And then you've got the different society classes and the way that they talk about the people. Oh, there's too many of that kind of people coming in. And, the characters say, well, what do you mean by that kind of people? Addressing bigotry head on, and they do it in a really interesting way. And we miss out on elements of diversity that could have been shown here. So we have Cheery, who is a dwarf nominally. In the books, the dwarves are they all look like what you think of when you think of a fantasy dwarf. They all have big beards. They carry axes and everything. And nobody, there's a lot of question as to whether or not dwarves, there even are women. Of course there are. They just happen to have beards as well.
They look exactly the same, which often, and that's the joke, makes for some rather awkward conversations when they reach the bedroom.
Yeah.
Right, so now I'm a little bit confused because I thought that this was a trans representation thing, but is it just a thing in the book that dwarves look like whoever they look like?
Dwarves look like whatever they look like, but it is, so it almost adds that layer of, is this being insulting?
Right.
Oh, okay.
You know,
okay.
That's a good point.
You
Yeah.
know,
and also removing a part for a little person that, you know, there could have been a part in there for a transgender little person actor or something like that, that could have actually really given some more to play with there. But instead,
or let's say non-binary instead of outright transgender, let's even like explore more of the spectrum, because there's scope there to do that. And instead of doing that with any of these characters, they seem to have just gone, you know, what's a funny way that we could play this while playing to the diversity card here.
Yeah, which is frustrating as fuck.
So anyway, The Watch, go see it or don't. No, I just found that this was like, whoa, okay, this is a lot more. There's a whole bunch more to unpack in there that I was getting because I don't know the background and this history. It's like
a lot more problematic than just being a shit show.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's got
and a lot more. I think it's a lot more upsetting to a lot of people than just telling the story wrong as well. I think that anyone who doesn't know the story may see a lot of these Discworld fans as just incredibly passionate people who are getting up in arms, almost like Star Wars fans. You know, you ruined Star Wars by adding a woman as the lead. That's not what we're saying here. We wouldn't have cared if you made Lord Vetinari a woman, which you didn't, by the way. I didn't care when that happened. That was fine. It did cause some questions around, you know, some of the storylines that come up, because they do actually explore men and women in like top roles, and that sort of thing becomes large plot points later on. But that would have been fine if you hadn't gone and fucked with literally all of the important heartfelt plot points in all of the characters, all of the show as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've
read Guards.
I found it interesting seeing other friends of ours who have gotten angry about things that I kind of looked at and went, whatever. You know, the fact that it is kind of so cyberpunky, and, you know, they're using iPads and they're using, and everything looks like it's lit by neon, and, you know, all of these things that you can, like, I don't know what the fuck you're trying to do with that. There are people who seem to be really upset about essentially quite surfacey things that I don't think really actually matter that much to the core of the story. But when you actually start pulling apart the characters and demonstrating at every turn that you don't understand why they're there, you know, like there's a character who's killed in episode 2 that I was just like, what?
The rock
They weren't even meant to be there until book 2.
Exactly. And you're like,
Guys, you don't understand how expensive these things are. That was like a 1 episode deal.
That was obviously a CGI costume.
Can I also ask a question?
Grab.
Like what happened to the whole idea of this being a police procedural? Because this is not a police procedural. This is just trying to
dabbles in it by episode 3.
Yeah, but I mean, they're following along the one narrative it's going through. Like a police procedural is crime happens, figure out how crime happened, arrest someone, move on next time, and then then sprinkle in a little bit of like long form narrative every now and again to keep it all interesting. But this is just like,
I actually kind of hate police procedurals, but I feel like I'd be more likely to keep watching this if that's what this was. Because I'm more interested in the individual characters and the larger plot that's been set up. Yeah.
And that then allows you to do so much more of the world building. When you go and explore how a crime happened, you can then, you know, explore different elements of the world You can go, oh, hang on, this person worked as a clacks operator. What's the clacks?
Yeah,
You
I mean, I
know,
love who's the
this
camera,
person-
the little camera goblins that do the
Imps.
paintings, imps that are painting flat out. They're just painting scenes flat out all the time. And I was like, that's funny. And someone's killing them, and that's bad. And you've got to figure out why that is. Like, that's a whole show right there. Who's killing the imps? You know?
I would have been okay with them turning Ankh Morpork into a cyberpunk world if they did it well, first of all, because I feel like Ankh Morpork is that gritty, like underbelly kind of feel that could lend itself to that idea. I would have loved it if they just stuck a little closer to Guards, because I don't see why it needed all of this alteration to be beautiful and interesting, and it already is. And I really worry that a show like this could prevent something beautiful from being made in the future that's a little bit more faithful, or not even more faithful necessarily, but has a little bit of the heart of the original.
I think there are so many things that we miss out on because, and potentially, potentially it's going to drive people away from reading the books, which I think would make me incredibly sad. Because if you watch this and go, that's fucking terrible, I don't want to read those books, you're going to miss out on an entire world of happy times. But then also, this is the kind of thing that puts the kibosh on any more Discworld stuff being made, because there have been, so far, there's been The Color of Magic and The Light Fantastic as two specials, Hogfather, which is death as a Christmas thing, and Going Postal, which was another one that was all about the Discworld's postal service. That's it in terms of the live action stuff. Oh, and there is actually a beautiful Australian-made film. It's only 28 minutes long. It's made by Snowgum Films, called Troll Bridge, which is based on a short story of Terry Pratchett's, which is far better than what this is.
Yes.
But I mean, they've attempted to do Mort, which is the story of Death's Apprentice. They've attempted to do and
also a good place to start, guys. Mort.
Yeah. And there is the animated ones that they've attempted. There have been multiple attempts at this, and I think everybody was kind of going, oh, yes, we're going to get long form stories about Discworld. And I think one of the things that shits me the most about this is they don't even refer to Discworld.
No, they do refer though to Round World,
which
in
is
one of the episodes.
In one of the multiverse things. I was like, oh, that's just one of them.
Like,
What?
the most that they call their planet is the disc. Like, I've heard them say the disc.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I mean, apart from the fact that this version of Death is to be one of the worst versions of Death.
Oh, we're going to talk about Death, are we?
Well, you can if you want to talk about Death. Let's bring up the Death, the not so quite white elephant in the room. That Death is terrible.
Who is Death voiced by?
Wendell Pierce.
Yeah.
Yes, Wendell Pierce, who is on a lot of
An American actor.
Shows in the background doing a bunch of stuff.
Like he probably, I'm just looking to see what he best known for The Wire.
You have to watch The Wire and Breaking
Selma.
Bad, Quinny, because you've got to watch The Wire and Breaking Bad.
Quinny sounding confused.
Yeah, well, Chicago PD, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. He's an American kind of jobbing actor.
I'll look him up.
Yeah.
So why don't we tell everyone what Death is meant to be like? Not in necessarily as
Christopher
compared
Lee.
to, but just outright, if you were to describe Death from Discworld, Terry Pratchett's Death, what words would you use to describe?
He is a tall skeleton wearing a black cloak. His eyes are the blue pinpricks of light that are, the more you look at them, you're probably seeing entire galaxies being born and dying in that tiny little light.
And personality-wise?
Slightly confused and very wry grandfather. but somebody who more than anything sounds an awful lot like, in my mind, Christopher Lee.
And loves cats. Because cats are the only animals that can see him.
Beck, you put that flirkin down.
He loves That's his whole thing.
That's a flirkin,
not his
Beck.
whole thing.
I was going to say, it's not his whole thing.
It's a big thing is that he absolutely adores cats, and anyone who doesn't like cats, he immediately has a dislike for.
And he will
Sounds
show
like
up.
my kind of guy.
Yeah. He will show up for a whole bunch of different. Like, you may be rich, you may be famous, or you may be a nobody, and sometimes death will show up when you die, and you'll have a brief conversation with him. It's usually very wry, occasionally quite amusing. He rides a giant white steed, carries a scythe. Yes, it's called Binky. And he carries a scythe that the blade is so thin that you can see through it, and it is used for cutting your soul away from your body.
Best on-screen representation of death so far. Go.
Christopher Lee.
In which one? Hogfather?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm not sure. In Hogfather, I'm not sure whether it's Christopher Lee or Ian Richardson.
Yeah. Chip knows.
It's very involved in this conversation now. We're talking about death.
And he speaks in hollow capitals. Anytime he shows up, it is just all capital letters, and you can tell that it has an echo. You know, he's somebody who knows what color the reality is. But
it's not necessarily scary or like
No.
it just is. You know, he's all encompassing, but also has this very kind of sincere personality. And when death comes, it's not a matter of like, this is terrible and scary, or this is great, this is wonderful. It just is. It just happens. It's just an experience, and he's there to take you away.
Yes. Yeah. And usually it's like, I wasn't expecting this to happen. No one ever is.
Yes. And then he likes curry.
Yes. Yes. And in certain books, he's taken on an apprentice and has a daughter and all sorts of other stuff. But
that's the death that I knew. I think her name was Susan.
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's Death's granddaughter, which was a weird choice because, like, in Hogfather, it's all about Susan, and which is odd because she's not introduced. Well, she's introduced in Mort, and nobody's ever adapted Mort. So it's like, maybe you should start the story at the start.
Look, the Terry Pratchett universe seems like a very weird and strange time to have just had a bunch of weird and different ideas thrown at it about how to represent things, and it's picked apart in a kind of weird buffet. That
Yeah, but it's not weird if you actually if you follow a plot line. If you just go into one of the starting points, like say Mort is a starting point for the death stories. And these are very easy to find. Like, if you want to read the death storyline and follow death throughout the book, you can start with Mort and then go on to the next death book and the next death book and the next death book. If you want to read about the Watch, then you start with Guards and you go on to the next.
Then
Watch
what has
book
been
and
the
next
huge
Watch book and
problem
the
with
next
just actually directly making a series about that everyone seems to not do correctly? Like, why has this just become?
No idea.
Why has this just become the one property that everyone loves, has a rabid fan base, but nobody seems to be able to get it?
Well, what's spectacular is that there are actually standalone books in Discworld. There are books that you could actually read and adapt and understand without having to know anything else about the universe or any of the other characters or anything like that. It's just really interesting that they choose not to adapt those books. I don't know why, but they don't.
Possibly because they are so standalone, and they know that the Pratchett fan base are probably wanting characters that they know and love.
Yes, but they want them done right. And if they do want characters they know and love, why don't you just do that? Like, why is anyone saying we want Susan but not Mort? Like, I don't understand the logic behind that.
Like, I mean, okay, one of the ones that that has been adapted is Going Postal, which I think was done in 2008.
Yeah, Going Postal is actually an okay standalone.
Yeah, and it has characters from this series in it. So I think Angua shows up in Going Postal. It's got Veterinary is in it, but played by Charles Dance. And I'd say it's probably one of the more on point adaptations. But once again, it's sort of a weird choice as to why you do Going Postal.
Yeah.
But I would suggest if you are interested in probably finding a little bit more what Discworld is meant to feel like, now that you've watched The Watch, I would suggest go and try out Going Postal and see whether that feels a little bit more to your taste.
Or perhaps there's books you could read or audiobooks you could listen to.
Or the wonderful video games.
Are they good?
Had, what's his name? Eric Idle as Rincewind. They were great.
Or, just read Guards or have it read to you. Like, seriously, I know I'm a broken record on this, but this book will change everything you know about Discworld if all you have done is watch The Watch. It will tell you.
I feel like I'm probably going to leave The Watch here, to be honest. I don't feel compelled to watch any, like, I'm not like, oh, can't wait till next week's episode drops so I can see what happens. So I think that is what I'll be doing, Beck. Guards will be the next audio book.
Yay! Do it. Do it.
Then I'm very hesitant about calling for ratings on this one. Maybe I'll just ask the question: is like, who's gonna keep watching The Watch?
Oh dear.
I mean, look, honestly, when like all of the episodes have dropped, I might like stick it on in the background while I'm doing something else, just to run it through and see what happens. But frankly, I don't really want to be spoiled for the books any more than I already am now. I think I'd rather just dig in.
Yeah,
fair call.
Definitely. At least take the 9 hours that it takes to listen to Guards. Although there are other spoilery bits for other books in this TV series as well.
Sort of,
but
they
do that thing where they just mash it all up.
Give it a go. I think I mean, after you've done that first one, that first book, you'll probably have a really strong feeling as to whether you want to continue and do more.
Yeah, and you can get mad with all of us about how little they use the librarian.
Oh, brilliant.
Or how badly they used.
I love feeling enraged about an adaptation.
How could you, like, the librarian who got turned directly into an orangutan, which is something that I do know of from that ride. Why did they make them a guy in an orangutan, like a half transformation? Like, it's just...
It wasn't even close to looking like an orangutan. It just looked like that poor person had some, like, terrible acid accident.
Yeah. When they started going towards doing the library and everything, I thought, holy shit, they're going to try and do the librarian. Amazing. And then it happened and I went, oh, fuck me, running.
Yeah. And he is only in it for one episode out of 8. I have double checked the IMDb to see whether or not they intend to bring him back. Because he does become a recurring character in the books and he's actually part of The Watch. So, there you go.
I did like someone just mentioned Gelf in the chat. That was very funny. Yes, like
yes,
a Gelf. A Red Dwarf joke. There's a Red Dwarf joke for you. Yes, America continuing the tradition of absolutely fucking up adaptations for American audiences of beloved TV series. If anyone loves The IT Crowd or Red Dwarf.
Oh my God. Matt Berry's meant to show up in this?
Yes, he does. He's credited as the Sword.
Oh.
As Wayne, a sword. I think I'm much happier just watching him in the vampire one. Yes, What We Do in the Shadows. Thanks very much. Yes, that damn hat. Human form.
Okay, so Beck, is your rating actually -7?
Look, it exists.
Less than 7.
What did I give Dungeons and Dragons? the movie.
Oh, fuck only knows.
Because like that was a long
dunno.
time ago, but I feel similar feelings of what the fuck is this
Yeah,
about this series.
You gave me. I think you gave Dungeons and Dragons as why did you make us watch this?
Yeah, right. I'd like to give you that for this one. I'll probably give it a look. There are some interesting ideas that if they'd fleshed them out properly and actually had a little bit more soul to them, I could probably have appreciated it. I like that they tried something different with the steampunkiness. Cyberpunkiness.
Yeah, I would have been totally down for this if they'd actually gone steampunk, but
Yeah.
no.
Look, if they'd done everything else and just turned it cyberpunk, I think that could have been a really interesting way to approach Ankh Morpork. But it just doesn't work. I'm going to give it a 11.
11. Excellent. And just for your reference, Dungeons and Dragons is sitting at 6% awesome.
Yeah.
Better than Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Peter, how would you rate this? Could you rate this?
Super ambivalent about rating this.
Yeah.
Like I don't have strong feelings about it. Like I don't hate it. I don't like it enough to keep watching it. So I guess super ambivalent is like 45.
That's
I know
super ambivalent.
high compared to you, Beth, but it's very low compared to my usual rating system of let's be nice to everything.
Yes. Well, that is the generic periodic table of awesome rating system. I'm the only one who seems to actually disagree with that. So that's totally fine. I throw off the bell curve usually.
Sure.
Well, the bell curve. Jill.
I'm the same as Peter. Like, I can't even be bothered to rate it because I don't really want to keep watching it.
Wow.
I'm just like here to say what I
Abstain.
liked about it, and there wasn't much. So maybe 30. Like, it has the potential to be better, but it's just not fantastic.
It's going to take a lot of
There's
convincing.
Very, very few things about it that are good and could potentially be better, but it's not going to be better. So
That's true, actually. Yeah.
30.
We shouldn't be rating based on could have beens.
That's
No,
true.
that's my biggest mistake.
Fine, I'm going to revise my rating down to 35 as well based on, that's the second week in a row that I've done that. You guys have convinced me. I'm dropping the number.
Okay, Dion.
Look, it has a lot of faults, but I have to say I have enjoyed some of it. So I'll probably go 25% because
Very proud of you, Dion. I'm so proud.
But it's like, see, this is what I sort of go. I go 25% of it I really enjoy, and I'm probably going to keep watching it because, like, I've done myself a mischief before where I've been like, this is shit, and then watch the rest. I'm like, oh fuck, it got
but
really
I don't
good.
think this is going to be the Orville.
No.
This is.
But also, yeah, I mean, I think Peter made a valid point by saying, should I spoil what could potentially be some interesting plot lines by watching The Watch and then not having the same impact if I read the stories? But then also, I kind of, like, I enjoy some of their, like, there's got to be a few people on that show who absolutely love Pratchett because they're taking the care to do it kind of as best as they can. It's just that it's such a fucking shit fight.
Thank you.
Oh, come on. Some of the assassins look good, and I like that whole discussion about the mask.
No, the Assassin's Guild is something that you strive to get in.
Yeah, she got so angry.
She was
just
so angry,
paused
she
for a
just-
second. The internet couldn't handle it.
Dion, I think you should
I
just stop
can't.
watching it. I think you should stop watching it and read the book. I think you're going to be thoroughly disappointed. if you
Okay.
do.
Look, honestly,
I'll
I
go-
think if you keep watching these, the way the series is going, I don't think you're going to be that spoiled for the books because
No.
it is so unfaithful to the books.
Right.
The things that you'll get
It
spoiled
is cheating
and
on
I
them every
feel-
night.
Yeah, I feel safe in saying this as a spoiler here because everyone who's still here has already heard it. But things like Angua is a werewolf. You don't know that until like pretty far into that second book. It's something that she's keeping a secret from everyone. So it's that sort of thing that you'll be spoiled on. So far as I can tell, the major plot lines are not things that you have anything to worry about here, really, because they fucked it so badly it doesn't resemble anything like the books.
Like the first book is all about, you know, a dragon, and dragons are a huge plot thing. In this one, there's been 2 episodes where they've basically forgotten that dragons were actually a plot point.
Yeah.
Like,
but even the
wow.
first book being about dragons, it's not a shock that they're about dragons. You open with the people summoning the dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be spoiled. There's a dragon.
Quinny, what have you got for us?
I like
5.
10.
10%.
Yep. I am angry. Like usually, and the thing is, it's 10%, and I'll probably watch another episode or 5 because I will hate watch the piss out of this. I feel like it's that thing where, you know, for a while I was trying to make excuses for it. I was like, oh, maybe they've kind of got Vimes a little bit right, and maybe they've got that, and Carrot looks about, and then I've realized that anything they've gotten right, it seems to be my mistake. Like they've accidentally slipped and fallen into getting it right, on their way to fucking up something else.
Let me just point out that Vimes in the books is one of my favorite characters. And can you imagine, anyone who knows me, can you imagine me enjoying the character that Vimes is in this series? That's
the thing is,
they are.
Like if they took off the eye makeup and everything, I actually don't think I would mind the actor. Like I think the actor, if they, you know, pull back the gurning by roughly 200%, and got rid of the makeup, I think I'd probably enjoy the actor doing Vimes, but not this version of him.
I don't think that, I honestly do not begrudge the actors in any of this.
No.
Even the ones who are miscast. I think they're doing the best job with what they've been given. I don't think this is the actors' fault at all.
Yeah. So yes, look, normally my thing is to look forward and go, yay, maybe. I'm all about the potential of TV shows. I've watched shows for many years based on the potential of what they could be. And this one is potentially just going to get fucking worse. So 10.
Yeah. I'm going to continue to hate watch it. I wish there was a way I could do it without supporting the people who made it, which is not something I say very often about the arts at all. Because I like to support the arts and people who create things. I just think that this was done so disrespectfully that it makes me sad to think of anyone profiting off this.
I'd also like to apologize for the bats that are going apeshit in the background. They're a whole bunch of vampires that have also got opinions.
They moved in.
Yes.
Vampires with opinions.
Yep. Yeah.
Problem.
So my apologies about that. Yes. So
that
next,
just sounds like you're being anti-undead, actually.
yeah, absolutely. Yes, Mrs. Cake and her bed and breakfast. I apologize to all of the attendees there. There are so many things that I wish were being explored that aren't. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been our 199.5. Because we are the periodic table of awesome, and one of the things that we focus on is awesomeness. We are all about trying to find the awesome in things, and we really, really, really didn't want our 200th episode to be about something that wasn't at least a bit awesome. So we hope that you join us next week for our actual 200th episode.
Yes.
What are we going to do, Dion? What do you reckon?
Nothing. We're just going to talk about ourselves. It's going to be an open forum. You just get to stand up and give us like your...
Just 5 TED Talks.
You're very special.
I won't be
10
here
minutes.
next week, unfortunately. So have fun without me. Actually have a little less salt in your diet.
Technically, we were going to do WandaVision.
I believe that is on the cards.
That was on the cards, but we'll see whether or not
But
that
theoretically,
comes
there
to...
will only be one episode of it out.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
They're doing 2 in the first week, apparently.
But,
Freddie Kanga has suggested that next week's episode should start in black and white, WandaVision style. I love that idea. I would also love to see whether or not you guys are clever enough to make it happen.
Look, without track record,
wow. Geez.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Whoa.
Oh, geez. Okay. Quinny's just going for it. Okay, fair
It's
enough.
too contrasty. I'd prefer a bit of a sepia tone, thanks, Queen.
Oh, okay.
Now you just
Right.
look like the Blob.
Hey.
Hey, that's mean.
Look all the contrast out.
Yeah.
Just do
All
that
right.
one.
I'm trying to sepia tone myself for fuck's
Trying to
sake.
What
sepia
happened
tone
to the
yourself.
video?
I don't know.
I just went white for everyone. There we go. Whoop, there we go.
Oh, now we're back.
There we go. There we go.
Sorry, I turned bright red about halfway into this stream, so I'm not one to be criticizing anyone.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being a part of this dick around with the Zoom.
Yeah. Sure, why not? We'll just do it here. It's fun.
To those of you who would love to, we would love to have any kind of messages from you. Oh, now Dion's gone black and white.
Now
Yeah,
we've
very
figured
clever.
it out. There we go. It's time for the old time here. A periodic table of awesome. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
Good. Yes, we would love messages from you. If you have audio that you can send in for us, I would love to hear what your favorite episodes or favorite things of ours for the past 200 episodes have been. That's basically nearly 4 years of like weekly podcasts.
Ooh, apparently there's a new T-shirt on Twitter for us to enjoy.
Yeah, you should
I've already
definitely.
seen it. It's
you should
wonderful.
definitely all send us 200th birthday messages. I think we can read them out in the show.
200th birthday messages.
Yes, as old as Yoda.
We would thoroughly enjoy that, and we would love to have you all join us again. And
Sure.
honestly, we'd love to have you here every week because we do enjoy your company so very much. Thank you. I have been Quinny.
I've been Dion.
I've been Beck.
I've been Jill.
I've been Peter.
Hey.
And don't forget, we watched it, so you don't have to.
Jesus. All right. Okay. Well, good night.
Bye.